Good evening to all. Today, my group will present on Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. So, I will proceed on my presentation, which is Chapter 1. Okay, first, it is the objective of general purpose financial reporting. Okay, next slide. Okay, in this objective, first, it is to provide a financial information about the reported entity that is useful in making a decision about just provide the resource to the entity itself. This first is investor, traders, or other creditors. In this, there we have a decision which is involved in buying, selling, or holding equity and that instrument. Second is they provide or settling the loans to the other form of credit. That it is exercising which is right to vote on, which is otherwise this have influence of the management. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the assessment, which is the economic resource of the entity have claims against the entity and change in those resources and claims. Second, is this how the efficiency and effectively the entity's management and governing the board have discharged their responsible to use the entity's economy. Is they have a limitation. Is the general purpose is do not and cannot provide all of the information that existing and potential investor, lenders, and other creditor needs. Second is they have user need to consider on the pertinent information from the other sources. Last one is the not designed to show the value of reported entity itself, but they have to estimate the to their user. Okay, the next slide. It is the information about the reported entity, which is they have to provide the information about the financial position of a reported entity. Next is they have, which is their information about the entity economic resources. The last part, they have to claims against their reported entity. Okay, the next slide. Okay, this is the definition of economic resource. It is example of the asset. Okay, present economic, which is resources which is controlled by the entity as a result of the past event. It is also an economic resources which is have their right that has potential to produce the economic benefit. Okay. The second is their claims. It is have two. First one is the liability. Present obligation of entity, they have to transfer an economic resource as a result of the past event. Second one is the equity, which is they have residual interest in the asset of the entity after the deducting all their liabilities. Okay, the next slide. Excuse me. Okay, the economic resource and claims information. First one, they have to help the user to assess the reported entities liquidity and solvency its needs for additional financing. The second one is the information about the companies handling their liability. Third one is help the users to assess the management stewardship of the entity's economic resources. The last one is the user will have to predict how their future cash flow will be distributed among those with a claims against the reporting entities. Okay, the next slide. Okay, this is the changes in the economic resources and claims. They have appropriately evaluate the reported entities, which is the expectation for future net cash flow, as well as the management stewardship of the entity economic resources. They have three types. First is evaluating the management stewardship. Second is variability and component of the return. And third is the past financial performance and how they manage it. Okay, the next slide. Okay, this financial performance reflected by accrual accounting. This is sales is recognized at the point of sale, is not at the cash receipt, which is they have change in its economic resources and claims during a period provide a better basis for assessing the entity's past, wages, and the future performance. Okay, then this information solely about cash receipt and payment receipt during that period. Okay, it is also that we have purchased it, they have to recognize at the point of purchase, which is not at the cash payment. Okay, the next slide. Okay, the past cash flow information, which is to help user understand a reported entity's operation. Second, then we have to evaluate financing and investing activities. Interpret their information about the financial performance. And last is have to assess its liquidity or solvency. The information about use of the entity's economic resource, they have to help the user to assess the management stewardship to those resources. Second is such information which is useful for the predicting how efficiently and effectively management will use the entity's economic resource, which is to have it in the future period. Okay. Third is useful for assessing the entities, which is their prospect for the future net cash inflow. For example, they have used the trade receivable and cash royalty received. And the next. Okay, is the question on July 2017 from UITM. Okay, the question 5, which is the International Accounting Standard Board IASB conceptual framework identifies a number of qualitative characteristics the financial information should pose if it is to be useful for economic decision making. Okay, question is discuss whether general purpose financial reporting is able to provide all of the information needed by the existing and potential investor, lenders, and other creditors. Okay, next slide. The answer. Okay. First is the existing and prospective owner, since they have borrowers and other stakeholders also require details to help them to determine expectation for an entity possible net cash inflow. Second point is the purpose is do not and cannot contain of the detail which is there to provide by the current and prospective owner, borrowers, and the other creditor. This user will find important detail from other outlets such as its a general economic trends, aspiration, global development, political environment, and the outlook for industry market. And the last answer is the purpose, which is financial report is do not mean to display a reporting entity's valuation, which is rather than they have to offer statistics to support the current and prospective owner, the borrowers and other creditor to measure the reporting entity's worth. Next, I will pass to Mardhiah, chapter 2.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good evening everyone. So now I will be presenting chapter 2, which is the qualitative characteristics of useful information. Okay, in this chapter we will be discussing on the qualitative characteristics of useful financial information, as well as to identify the types of useful information to the existing and potential investors, lenders, and other creditors. Other than that, it is also for making decisions about the reporting entity on the basis of information in its financial report or financial information. Okay, there are two parts of the qualitative characteristics of useful information, which include the fundamental qualitative characteristics and also enhancing qualitative characteristics. If financial information is to be useful, it must be relevant and faithfully represent what it purports to represent. And the usefulness of financial information is enhanced if it is comparable, verifiable, timely, and understandable. We will go through the first part, which is fundamental qualitative characteristics. In this fundamental qualitative characteristics, there are two, which is relevance and faithful representation. In relevance, means that capable of making a difference in the decisions made by users. And even if some users choose not to take advantage of it or are already aware of it from other sources. And then in terms of its materiality, information is material if omitting it or misstating it could influence decisions to the financial reports made on the basis. The second one is faithful representation. Financial information must faithfully represent the substance of the phenomena that it purports to represent. The substance of an economic phenomenon and its legal form are the same in the most circumstances. And then to be a perfectly faithful representation, a depiction would have three characteristics which are complete, neutral, and free from error. Second part is enhancing qualitative characteristics. Um, This helps to determine which of two ways should be used to depict a phenomenon if both are considered to provide equally relevant information and equally faithfully representation of that phenomenon. So in these characteristics, there are comparability, verifiability, timeliness, and also understandability. For the first characteristics, which is comparability, it enables users to identify and understand similarities in and differences among items. And the second one is verifiability. It helps to assure users that information faithfully represents the economic phenomena it purports to represent. Timeliness. It is mean that having information available to decision makers in time to be capable of influencing their decisions. And the last one is understandability, which is classifying, characterizing, and presenting information clearly and concisely makes it understandable. Okay, the next one is the cost constraint on useful financial reporting. So cost is a pervasive constraint on the information that can be provided by financial reporting. Reporting financial information imposes costs, and it is important that those costs are justified by the benefits of reporting that information. And there are several types of costs and benefits to consider. The last part is the past year question. So it is from UITM, June 2019, question 5B. Two major qualitative characteristics of financial information in the International Accounting Standards Board (IASB) framework are reliability and relevance. Within reliability, the main component is faithful representation. So discuss the meaning of relevance and faithful representation. So I've just mentioned about the meaning of relevance and faithful from the previous slides. Okay, so the answer for the relevance, it means that financial information is capable of making a difference in the decisions made by users. Information may be capable of making a difference in a decision even if some users choose not to take advantage of it or already aware of it from other sources. And financial information is capable of making a difference in decisions if it has predictive value, confirmatory value, or both. So for this question, it is 5 marks. So for the first point, I put 3 points, which is can be represent 3 marks. And then for the faithful presentation, it defines that the financial reports must represent economic phenomena in words and numbers. In fact, financial information must not only represent relevant phenomena, but it must also faithfully represent the substance of the phenomena that it purports to represent. And in many circumstances, the substance of an economic phenomenon and its legal form are the same. If they are not the same, providing information only about the legal form would not faithfully represent the economic phenomenon. So I think that's all from us. Thank you.